Right, okay, so Emy is finished, and we'll have a look at some images of Emy with all her nice new shiny bits and electronics. This is something I didn't really want to do, but unfortunately I am going to have to do. This old girl is only a year younger than Emy, and she needs to have a bit of overhaul as well. So what I'm going to do is take the electronics out, tidy things up. There's lots of things being added over the years. Take out things that don't really function anymore. Yeah, more work, more electronics. She's pretty good. Her paintwork's alright. She's cracking a little bit in places, but that's just her age. You know, we all start cracking with age, unfortunately. So here we are working on Emy. So this little girl is 11 years old. 11 years, it's hard to believe really. She's having a massive makeover, both cosmetic and electronic. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit of some of the electronics that I did. So you can see here that obviously all her electronics is on the back. This isn't the first droid I made. Did an R2-D2 before her. One thing I learned from doing the R2-D2 is making sure that everything is accessible so you don't have to start taking things apart. Hence, the opening door. And all her electronics are on the back of the door. Now, from this you can see it all looks like a little bit of spaghetti. I've been tidying it all up. It all still works, which is pretty impressive really after all these years. Still using the Spectrum radios. This is an 8-channel unit here. You know, lots of things. I'm still using the RF boards. Now, these RF boards here, these are relays, these things. And they're controlled via these. So you press a button and it switches a relay, which can then switch something else. And you can see here, this relay unit here controls, or is able to control the Sparkfun MP3 board here, which is the sound system. Little SD card goes through. When I hit a button on the control unit, it then controls switches one of the relays, which then triggers a sound. And I got 12 different sounds. Now, there's 2 of these. I don't do this anymore. I mainly use these now for just sound. But at the time, obviously, when I did this, I had a second one on here as well. Now, this second one actually controls every single independent light on the unit. So I can switch the feet lights on, the front lights, headlights. I can switch everything on independently. Not sure why I did that. Probably did it because just wanted to, really. I've left it on. It works fine. No issue whatsoever. Like I said, it's just all been tidied up. So everything is here. It's on this layered board. You can see it's like you've got the speed controller underneath, switches, RF units. I interestingly fitted a fan. Don't usually do that anymore now, but that obviously keeps everything cool. That might be why she's lasted for so long. I don't know. Other bits and pieces on there. This is important. I still use this system. You notice there's lots of different coloured wiring, and this was just because I was scrounging old computer wiring. You can see it's terminated here with a couple of Molex connectors off computers. This is the motors. So on all my droids, all my robots, I physically disconnect the motors when we push the unit around. So it's physically disconnected and connected when it's driven. Reason being is the Sabertooth, Dimension Engineering Sabertooth speed controllers are regen. What that means is that if you basically don't have your batteries connected, you have the motor connected, the motors act like dynamos, and they will put generation back into the speed controller, which will damage the speed controller if a battery isn't connected. So that's the reason that connector is there, and that's the same connector that's been used on everything. No batteries in there. Everything is being tidied out inside. These are the batteries, or the size of the batteries that are going in. Her original batteries had failed. There were much smaller batteries. Now, the system is very different. When I built her, she had 3 batteries in her. 2 were linked together in series for the 24 volts for the drive motors, and then 1 sat in the middle, and that powered all the other electronics, the 12 volt system, and then there's step downs in the head for, you know, other voltages. I haven't used that system for a long time. What I moved over to with Zoe is I use 2 batteries in 24 volt arrangements. They then go into a step down converter, which converts then 24 volts to 12 volts. Little switching unit that sits in there. I'm now using that system. I'm waiting for all that kit to arrive so I can fit it. But in effect, you'll have 2 nice big brand new batteries linked together in series, providing 24 volts. 12 volts comes off the converter into the main board, which triggers all the lighting and all the other bits and pieces. On the back here, I've kept the system. I still use this system. Independent circuits for different things. Beauty of this is you can turn things on and off when you need them. So for example, I can turn all the lighting, everything on, but don't turn the motors on, which means she's completely safe. She can't go anywhere. And obviously everything is fused through 7 independent circuits, meaning that if one circuit fails, you know, you don't blow everything else up. Interestingly, she didn't have a charging system on board because at the time I took the batteries out and charged them outside the Droid. I don't do that anymore, so I've had to build a charging system so it can be charged on board. Right, so I am fitting Emy's batteries now. I've already got one battery in, so the earth has been connected to the battery. We're connecting them in series, so there's the fly lead off, coming off the positive of the other battery, which go to the negative of this battery, which I'll connect in a moment. What I'm doing here is connecting up the positive feed, and obviously what this will do is this is going to give me a 24 volt system. So 2 batteries, 2 12-volt batteries in series connected together. You can see the voltage regulator. I'll pop the torch on actually. You can see the voltage regulator sat there in the middle and the batteries sit either side. And then obviously once this is all powered up, moment of truth. Right, so I found the problem. The problem was that when I pressed buttons, I had a clicking noise coming from the sound system. Sounded like the batteries were overloading. However, I have noticed also the little hollow eye thingy probably at the front wasn't going round. Took the voltage controller out and I have noticed a slight modification to the wiring, as you can see. It's obviously got caught or trapped somehow. I don't know how. It's still intact. Well, one of the wires was. So you can see there's the problem. So all that's got to come out and I've got to put a new one in. Obviously that, when this was done, God knows where that came from. Don't know what it is. I'll just use now a little U-Beck. And I'll have to make a decision about which size to go with. Probably go with the bigger one because it makes it easier. Well, there you have it. She's finished. She does look a little bit different from when she started, I must admit. So, obviously you've seen how all the electronics have been redone inside. This is the new blingy, well, we're going to call her Disco Emy. That's going to be her new, or R6-D1SCO. Disco Emy. Now, obviously, Zoe used to be the Emerald Droid, don't worry dear. She used to be all the shiny one, all the blingy one. Unfortunately, it looks like Emy has kind of slightly taken over a little bit. So let me kind of talk you through lots of like bling all over her. The idea is just to get that kind of like real disco-y kind of 80s thing going on. She's had loads of upgrades. Yeah, all right. Loads of upgrades. All the sound activated lighting, as you can see. All the new lights, new LEDs. Obviously, yeah, I know, don't stop. I shouldn't be pushing you around on your own, I know that. Right, so she's got the disco ball with a little kind of Parcan lighting her disco ball. Again, that's all triggered, sound activated. New underfeet LEDs. She's even got USB charging ports. She's come up to date now. And there you have it. So she's really, really good. She's a little bit lighter, actually, as well, because, especially with all the wiring I took out of her, she used to run, as you remember, a 3 battery system on there, which was 3 22 amp hour gel batteries. We're now down to 2 batteries because we're now using the same tech that this girl is using here, which was voltage regulators. So she is actually a little bit lighter. She's still heavy, but obviously because she's, you know, she's made of solid wood, this one. But, you know, there we have it. I think the biggest problem is going to be actually keeping her actually polished, because the fingerprints are terrible on this. They're really, really bad. Anyway, so one thing she did have that I mentioned, obviously they're all around the back, is the ability to be able to run at events when she's not running on her batteries. They do run for probably about, I don't know, 6 hours, maybe 7 hours. But obviously if you're driving around a lot and you're using lots of functions, your batteries might be flat within about 4 hours. So we needed a method that we could leave them both sort of powered up, but not using their internal batteries. And basically, Zoe is modelling this at the moment. Emy has now got this system fitted to her as well. So you can see here, this little gadget, this is our Droid power unit. So the Droid power unit, basically via a cable, is able to power up the droids via a socket on the back. And they're not running, so at the moment, Zoe is not running on her own power. She's running on an external power source, which of course will run her and Zoe and 2 other droids effectively, you know, indefinitely. Because they're not using their internal power. So obviously when we do want to drive them around, we flip a switch, we disconnect the cable, and they're then mobile again like they would be normally. So, what do you think of that then? I think that's it. Well, yeah, but you haven't got, you're not plugged in at the moment, so she is. Yeah, all right. So, there you have it. 2 new droids. Unfortunately, she did have a little bit of an upgrade as well. When I was working on Emy and I was playing around with changing bits and pieces, I couldn't remember certain wiring combinations, things that I did. So I checked out Zoe's wiring combination. And at that exact moment, her sound system stopped working. So she obviously was in sympathy at the time. So she's had a little upgrade as well on her sound system. She's tidied up some of her wiring in there as well. And of course, she has had added to her the power unit system. Obviously, like I said, she got it first. She has now got that same power charging system, so we can use this. And of course, I would imagine next in line is going to be Izzy hiding behind here. She'll be next, and then we'll move on to Sid, so that effectively all will be able to be powered off this unit. There we have it. See them at, I don't know when we're out next. When are we out next? Now you've gone quiet. Well, that doesn't really help me. When? You don't want to go out. You want to stay inside now because it's too cold. Stars of Time. Yeah. In March, I think. We'll see anyway. All right. Bye.